Provo, Utah, is it a paradise or a pitfall? If you're thinking of moving here, you've probably heard a lot of glowing reviews about Provo, Utah, or perhaps maybe some not so great. Today I'm breaking down the real pros and cons of living in Provo, Utah, so you can decide for yourself. Stick with me to the end where I'll share what I think is the biggest hidden factor people forget when moving here. By the way, if you're serious about relocating to Provo, Utah or Utah Valley area, go grab my free relocation guide. It's in a link in the description down below. It's packed full of everything you need to know about living in Utah Valley. Hey there guys, I'm Scott Walters with Best USA Realty. I am your Utah YouTubing realtor, talking all things what it's like to live, sleep, eat, work, and play in Provo, Utah and the Utah Valley area. So if you're thinking of moving to the Provo, Utah area, I want you to know about the upsides as well as the downsides before you move here. So let's dive in. When I think of one of the upsides about living in the Provo, Utah area, this is it. The outdoor lifestyle, the outdoor recreation. The mountains here in Utah are absolutely beautiful. Surrounding Provo, Utah and the Utah Valley, it's just ringed in by beautiful mountains, hemmed in on the west side by a big, beautiful freshwater lake, the Utah Lake. There's so much to do when it comes to outdoor recreation here in the Provo, Utah area, and it is a major draw for people. You've got all kinds of hiking trails, mountain biking trails. I mean, there are trails everywhere throughout these mountains here that people enjoy. There's lots of reservoirs to go fishing on or boating on or wakeboarding, anything that you want to do as far as a water sports activity. Provo Canyon, without a doubt, one of the most beautiful canyons in all of Utah. Of course, it's anchored by the iconic Bridalveil Falls up Provo Canyon. That's a beautiful hike and a visit any time of the year. Of course, just a little bit down the road from Bridalveil Falls, you've got the beautiful Sundance Ski Resort and the Alpine Loop Drive. One of the best fall drives you can ever take. Of course, I'm up here on the Nebo Loop Road on the south end of Utah Valley. Again, an incredible fall drive. It's a beautiful drive and vistas all year round. And one of the things I love about going up over the Nebo or over the Alpine Loop is you can loop around into the Cascade Springs area, which is really beautiful, and come out into the iconic Heber Valley. You can continue on up over and come out into American Fork Canyon. Go visit Temp Cave. There's just so much that way to do. Of course, don't forget about the big 5 national parks here in Utah, and you are just literally just a few hours away from all those. You're probably about 2.5 to 3 hours down to Canyonlands and Arches. Same thing heading down to Bryce Canyon National Park, which is my personal favorite national park here in Utah. You also have Zion National Park, probably the most popular national park here in Utah. And so they're just, as far as national parks, and of course there's other national parks in other states that are pretty close. Not that far of a drive to get down to the Grand Canyon or up to Yellowstone National Park. So just lots of opportunities for outdoor recreation. Don't forget about the skiing. I mean, what a draw Utah snow is to a lot of people. A lot of great ski resorts here in the Provo area. You've got the Sundance Ski Resort. Up in Salt Lake, you have Big Cottonwood and Little Cottonwood Canyons. There's 4 ski resorts up there. You got 2 massive ski resorts up in the Park City area, which is about an hour and 20-minute drive or so from the Provo area. You know, actually, maybe it's only about an hour. It's not that far of a drive to get up to Park City and the beautiful ski resorts up there. But loving the outdoors here also comes with one big downside, and I'll cover that in just a minute. All right, so let's just transition over into one of the drawbacks about living in Provo, Utah, and the Utah Valley area, and that's the winter time. Generally because of the winter inversions that can hit the valleys. You'll have high pressure that will trap the fog and the smog and pollution and the cold air down in the valleys, and it can last for days. I've even seen it last for weeks. Generally that season kicks up anywhere between January into late February, sometimes in December, but generally it's in the heart of the coldest part of winter is when we'll experience those winter inversions. That can really come as a shock to some people if they're not expecting that type of cold and poor air quality. I mean, it is so thick that a lot of times you can't even see the mountains. I mean, if you look behind me, you can see the mountains behind me. It's nice and clear and beautiful. But I remember being a kid growing up in Orem, living just at the base of the beautiful Mount Timpanogos, just less than a mile from my house. For about a week or two, I couldn't even see it because there was so much pollution trapped in with that winter inversion. So this is the type of thing you need to know about if you're planning on a move here to the Utah Valley area. I've got my free relocation guide. Go grab it. There's a link in the description down below, and in there I share with it some great neighborhoods that sometimes get above that inversion. One of Provo's strongest pros, you are statistically safer here than many U.S. cities. Overall crime is about 33% less in Provo than the national average. Violent crime is about half of what you will see nationally. And property crime is also significantly lower. So for many families and many people, safety is a big bonus. And in spite of the tragedy that took place here last week, Utah Valley is still considered an extremely safe place compared to other cities nationally. Of course, safe doesn't always mean exciting, so that leads us to another challenge. Provo has a very limited nightlife, and that is definitely influenced by the predominant religion practiced by many people in Provo, Utah, and the Utah Valley area, and that is the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Because of that, there's a lot of teachings against drinking of alcohol and nightlife and things like that. So therefore, you're not going to find as many bars and nightlife activities here. If that's something that's really big to you, you may want to consider Salt Lake or even another city. There's just not as much of that opportunity here in the Provo, Utah area. And part of that lower nightlife is the fact that Utah has very strict alcohol laws. If you like going out at night, grabbing drinks and enjoying some nightlife, just know that Utah has stricter alcohol laws than many other states. In fact, there are only 50 state-run liquor stores throughout the state of Utah. Grocery stores are only allowed to sell alcohol that's at a 5% content. If you want higher alcohol content, you have to purchase alcohol from one of these state liquor stores. And if I remember my stats correctly, Utah Valley only has 6 state-run liquor stores in the entire valley. So your options here are just limited than they are in other states. Thinking about relocating to Utah? Well, I've got just the thing for you. My team and I have actually taken the time to create the ultimate relocation guide, which is meant to save you hours of research. And I've linked it down below, from top employers to the best hospitals and a boatload of other things that you need to know before making the move. The best part is this guide is 100% free. That's right, you heard me right, 100% free. Just click the link in the description on the top pinned comment. Hope that helps. If education is high on your list, Provo delivers. Of course, you have Brigham Young University right in the heart of Provo, around 40,000 students or so. And then in nearby Orem, about 5 miles to the west, you have Utah Valley University, which is the largest university by population in the state of Utah, approaching 47,000 students that attend there, and many of them are first-generation students, showing the kind of opportunity that's available here. With those institutions of higher education comes great opportunities to watch incredible sporting activities. The Brigham Young University football team, the men's and women's basketball team, the men's and women's volleyball team, the women's soccer team, they all compete at a very high level and provide a lot of fantastic entertainment for the local residents here in Utah Valley, especially in the fall time, to watch the BYU men's team play in the beautiful Lavelle Edwards Stadium surrounded by gorgeous mountains. One big pro with Brigham Young University is just last year, or just a few months ago, they announced the addition of a new medical school. So now, besides being known as a great teaching school, BYU will now offer the opportunity to get a medical degree. While summers can be absolutely beautiful here in Utah with temperatures in the ranging from 90 up to about 98 degrees in the summertime, we deal with the wildfire season every single summer now. In fact, if you look behind me, about 8 years ago, there was a massive fire that rolled through here. I believe it was called either the Pole Creek or Pole Canyon fire. You can, just 8 short years ago, behind me, all these hills were completely covered in beautiful pine trees. Now they're burned out. They're gone. It's going to take a generation for those to come back. With those wildfires, that also brings poor air quality from time to time in the summer with that wildfire smoke. And even if we're not having fires right here in the state of Utah, we can experience smoke that drifts in from neighboring states when they have wildfires, like Washington State or Oregon or California, and that smoke drifts in here and we deal with that. Of course, other states beyond Utah, when we have wildfires, they also experience that smoke as it drifts all across the west and heads out east. So yeah, it can certainly add to some unpredictability when it comes to wanting to get beautiful, clear photos in the summertime. Sometimes there's just a haze that covers the horizon from that smoke. I remember a couple years ago, we took a family trip up to Grand Teton in Yellowstone National Park. It was also a very heavy wildfire season, and we couldn't hardly see the Grand Teton Mountains, those beautiful mountains, because there was this thick layer of haze from all the wildfires happening across the west. So if you ever just want to get away from that summer haze, one thing that's really cool now about Provo Regional Airport, they're expanding that from 4 to 10 gates. So it's growing, and you now have options to catch on to connections for international flights. So instead of having to always go up to Salt Lake City to the Salt Lake City International Airport, we now have a lot more options when it comes to flying right here in Provo. It is so close to go from the heart of Provo out to the Provo airport. You can be there literally in about 7 to 8 minutes. and walking into the airport. A really cool option, because before it was always about an hour drive going up north to Salt Lake to be able to have that transportation option of hopping onto an airplane. So again, they have a lot of flights to places like Orlando, popular destinations like the Los Angeles area. A lot of people like to go down to Disneyland. A lot of people head on down to the Phoenix Mesa area. There's a lot of connections, people that have family down that way. So you can hop on over to the Provo Regional Airport and you can be to a lot of destinations very quickly, and you can get away from that summer wildfire smoke. All right, so when I was growing up in the early 70s here in Utah Valley, the population was around 250,000 people. Now we're about 750,000 people. I mean, Utah Valley is just growing. There's subdivisions popping up all over the place, and with that brings increased traffic congestion, which honestly, a lot of locals hate it, but it's just part of the growth. I mean, we have a lot of people that are moving here, and that does affect that population, but there's also a lot of new people that have been born here. Our population is growing, and with that brings a lot more traffic, particularly along Interstate 15. That is the only main interstate corridor that we have running north and south through the Provo or the heart of Utah Valley. And of course, there's not really any east-west routes as far as the interstate goes. We have a great big lake right in the middle of the valley. So some of the areas where you see a lot of congestion, particularly around those rush hour times, would be University Parkway and University Avenue. Up on the northern end of Utah Valley in the Lehigh area, it gets very congested. Particularly, you got a lot of people that are commuting into the Salt Lake Valley for work, so that can get. So there's just certain times of the day where you just know you got to be patient, because you're going to be sitting in traffic. And of course, they've got the newer communities of Eagle Mountain, Saratoga Springs out on the northwest side of Utah Valley, just west of Lehigh, and so that's brought a lot of traffic. In fact, about 25 years ago, there's only about 2,000 people in those areas, and now there's about 100,000 people. So you can see the traffic's just increased exponentially with all those people. And the main corridors to get out there would be Lehigh Main Street, which is pretty narrow and small. They've created Pioneer Crossing on the kind of the south end of Main Street. On the north end, you've got 2100 North. Those roads at certain times of the day are just really crowded, really packed. It's going to take you a while to get through there. In fact, I just read that they're turning Pioneer Crossing into having some flex lanes so that they create more lanes during the rush hour traffic, going those directions in the rush hour traffic, to try to help alleviate some of that congestion. But just know, with the increased population here in Utah Valley, we are having a lot more traffic congestion that you will have to deal with.
Hey there, it's Scott Walters with Best USA Realty, your Utah YouTubing realtor. And as much as I love making these videos, there's one thing that I love more, and that's helping families and people from all over the US to move here. I've helped countless families move, so whether you're thinking of moving next week, next month, or even next year, don't hesitate to reach out. My contact is right here on the screen, and it's linked in the description down below, just in case you missed the pop-up. I look forward to helping you and your family make the move here to Utah.
One of the big pros about living in Provo and Utah Valley are all the tech job opportunities. You're not just getting mountain biking and hiking, you're also getting career opportunities. For example, you have Vivint right in Provo. They do smart home tech. You got Domo and American Fork that builds business intelligence dashboards. Qualtrics is also in Provo. It's a global player in experience data. You got Fishbowl up in Orem, which works in inventory management software. Of course, you got Adobe right up there in the heart of Silicon Slopes in Lehigh. Everyone's heard of Adobe. There's a whole bunch of other high-tech companies up between Lehigh and Draper. Provides all kinds of opportunities for good employment with well-paying jobs. I just want to give some examples of what some of those high-paying jobs pay. So, for example, a software engineer in Provo can expect around $113,000 a year or more. Of course, that depends upon experience. ZipRecruiter data shows averages closer to $139,500 a year, so for many mid-level roles. And then for BI developers, you're looking around $123,500 a year in Provo if you've got the experience. Entry level is around $80,000 if you got some tech or data skills. So the income potential is very strong in the Provo area. Let's just kind of put that into perspective. So if you're a software engineer making about $115,000 in Provo, after taxes, you're bringing in around $7,200 a month. And with today's home prices, about $520 to $550 is a median home price. Here in Utah County, your mortgage might run between $3,200 and $3,300 a month. So if you add in utilities, groceries, transportation, healthcare costs, you could still have around $2,200 a month left for savings, travel, and fun. Now, if you're a dual income tech family pulling in around $200,000 a year, you can afford those larger $800,000 homes that you're going to find in Mapleton and Highland and Salem. and Lehigh, and you'll still have thousands less left over every month. So while housing costs are high, higher salaries in Utah Valley's tech scene do help offset them some. Okay, and of course, speaking of those tech jobs with good paying salaries, one of the downsides is the fact that home prices have just surged here lately. The median home price is $520 to $550, but that includes all homes. If you just take in single family homes, that's a whole lot closer to $600,000. And of course, there's many homes that a few years ago would have been considered a starter home. They're now running $700,000, $800,000. And so the cost of living has just really skyrocketed in the Provo, Utah area. And of course, not everybody has those high paying tech jobs. And so it can be a challenge for many people to be able to afford even the necessities because of the high cost of housing. Generally speaking, like utilities and groceries tend to be cheaper here than other areas, but that's offset by that higher housing cost and those higher monthly mortgage payments. Now, one thing to keep in mind, the housing costs are still lower here in the Provo, Utah area compared to Salt Lake. They're lower compared to, say, Los Angeles or Portland or Seattle or other nearby states. It's about on par with the Boise area, but places like the Phoenix area and Las Vegas area, you still have a bit more affordability compared to the Utah Valley area. So if you're curious to see what your budget can get here in the Provo, Utah area, go to bestusarealty.com. Look up my home search feature, and I'd be happy to send you over a list of available properties right now on the market. And there are more properties than there's been in years. And so when it comes for buyers, there's just so many more options out there. And builders are offering absolutely incredible incentives right now for buyers to be able to move through all that extra inventory. In fact, I just got an email the other day with a lender offering up to 11% incentives to help people get into a new home. And that's on a few of those homes that are ready to go right now. Many other homes, they're offering 9% incentives. They're buying interest rates down so they can make those house payments way more affordable. So if you're a buyer, even though home prices are up, there are some real opportunities right now because there's so much more inventory. So is Provo a pitfall or a paradise? Make a comment down below. Let me know what you think. And honestly, I really think it depends upon your priorities, what you're looking for. For some, the outdoor lifestyle and the family-friendly atmosphere really makes Provo absolutely worth it. For others, the air quality, the high traffic, the inversions, the high cost of housing are just deal breakers. If you're trying to figure out where to land, go grab my free relocation guide. It'll be in the link in the description down below. It'll help you with your decision. And if you're already in Utah and you're just curious about your home's value, you want to know your home's value, go to www.bestusarealty.com/home value, and I'll be happy to do a free, no obligation, no hassle evaluation of your current market value. Hey, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and tap on that notification bell so you can stay current every time I drop another video about living in Provo, Utah, and the Utah Valley area. Hey, and if you found this video helpful, go check out my pros and cons 2025 video. You should be able to click on it up above. Again, I'm Scott Walters, Best USA Realty. I am your Utah YouTubing realtor, talking all things of what it's like to live, sleep, eat, work, and play in Provo, Utah, and the Utah Valley area. And with that, we will see you on the next video.